masculine ball, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Hello and welcome to a brand new content series all about the past, present and future of football, terrace and casual sneaker culture right here in the UK. The new Terrace, presented by myself, AGT, will take you on an insane journey from the mid-70s where this subculture started right up to now where the fashion, music and football combine more than ever. We'll also be getting up close and personal look at Puma's new Terrace offering, 4 sneakers that represent 4 cities from across the world, and we'll be checking out some football boots too that definitely will change the game. But to talk about all of this, I'm going to need some experts, aren't I? I'm lucky I'm joined by 2. I've got the legendary DJ and presenter and the garage-loving football nut, Mr. DJ Spoony. How are we, sir?
Nice one, chum. All of that?
Yes,
that all me?
That's all you. And I also have one of the coolest cats in London. He's definitely got a passion for fashion. He's got the most sneakers I know of. It's Mr. Kish Kash.
Yo, what's
How
good?
are we, sir?
Yeah, not too bad, my man.
Good to see you again. Love the handshake.
Likewise.
So listen, talk to me about terrace culture. I mean, we've been speaking before. You've been going to Liverpool games now for around
40 years.
40 years, yeah. So obviously your first ever game that you went to was Liverpool-Tottenham, at Tottenham, 1980.
Yeah.
Tell me what you know and remember about the fashion that people used to wear at the games and terrace culture in general.
I mean, that game, I remember more being so excited that I was going to go and watch Liverpool live for the first time. And on the way back, I just remember my eyes being full of tears because we lost 2-0. And I was that kid that would cry himself to sleep. So there wasn't so much to do with the actual terrace culture at that stage. However, when I got to about 14, 15 and the boys on the estate were a little bit older, and I grew up around a lot of Arsenal fans, and we could hear from the old Highbury, the cheers when Arsenal scored, which didn't happen often because they were quite boring, and it was
library
maximum like 1 goal a game. But those guys at the time were really wearing their, you know, they had the fancy Sergio Tacchinis and the Fila, and you know, the top boys had the Fila BJs.
Classics.
The absolute classics. And then they were really aspirational clothing items because you knew you was a kid because you didn't have those. The age didn't really matter so much, but it is until you can have those kind of clothes. And that's when I really started being aware that it's Saturday afternoon, 2:15, the boys are meeting up. At the time, it was just boys meeting up to go football, and they all had on their little bit of kit. And then, you know, later on, it became a little bit more, even more stylised, and people started wearing Stone Island and CP Company to football matches.
Kish, talk to me about your experiences with terrace culture. You're obviously a football nut yourself.
Yeah.
Manchester United fan. We won't mention that around 2 Liverpool fans. But talk to me about your early memories of the subculture that is terrace culture.
Well, the thing is, you know, as Spoony said, you looked up to the olders, right, and what they were wearing, and you know, you didn't have the money, they had the money, so they could drop it on whatever, and it just came down to aspirations. I remember, you know, looking at what they were in. You know, like we couldn't afford like you know, all these other big sporting brands, yeah. But when it came down to the footwear, you know, that was the thing that I suppose I've made up for in spades since then. Because I wanted, you know, the Puma Dalglish, you know, I wanted the GV-less and all this kind of stuff, and my mum was like, no, you can have the plimp soles. Do you know what I mean, like that? And you just like, you know, we were just like, you know, trying to stunt and trying to look good and all that kind of stuff. And there was also the backdrop of hip hop as well in the thing as well, and styling it out. And you saw the Rocksteady crew wearing, you know, Pumas with the fat laces and all that kind of stuff. And you just like, boom, that's it. But yeah, it's like, you know, you had like brands like, you know, your Gildea and all these other brands that you could buy sort of like at Burton or Foster's. And that was the stuff that was like the takedown version of the stuff that the real boys were wearing. Do you know what I mean? And it was just like, you know, seeing that. But yeah, there was a lot of peacocking going on. You know, and you just saw that and you was trying to aspire to that, wasn't it? Really?
It's funny because for me, I first came across Puma as a kid who played football. It was more about, like you said, the footwear, but you know, the Puma Kings and the SPA Kings and the Puma Dalglish. Yeah. And those were
Dalglish.
You know, they were real aspiration. They were the boots to have. They were the biggest.
Yeah, they were made at a kangaroo level,
at the
weren't
time.
they?
Yeah. And you know, even looking at this pair of trainers here, I remember when they first came out when the tongue folded over.
Yeah.
That was such a thing.
Yeah.
So now it was like, even when you had the trainers like that didn't, you'd be trying to pull them all the way up and do that. And it didn't, it didn't work. They weren't designed for that. But, as far as football, at the time, Puma, that they were the number one football boot. So all the kids wanted to have Puma boots.
No, that was it. I remember, you had to have serious game though. You had to be good. Because if you was playing in the top line boots and you was whack, you know what I mean? They were
wasn't
coming
a problem for me.
You know what I mean? But yeah, where I played football though was on the park. Do you know what I mean? So I always played in trainers. And I remember when I first, got a pair of trainers, and I was like, I used to play in Clark's shoes before then, so the ball was going wherever. If you could control the ball in shoes,
some
you're
wallabies,
all
then
right.
you're a decent player,
you're all right dealing with a pair of trainers. But then it was just a mad collision for me, in terms of styles, because you had the whole backdrop of two-tone culture. You had the punk movement, you had the disco movement, and all these movements, and then hip hop came in as well. And the street sport of New York was basketball. And then you saw, all the rappers and all the kids on the street and the photographs and stuff wearing Pumas and that. And that element sort of threaded through as well, And it was a mad period where you sort of found an affinity. So for me, I identified with hip hop as a music predominantly, from an early age. Even though I loved all the other of genres and still do, but that sort of informed the style. So it's a collision of the casual look. Right, where you had your waffle trousers or your stay press or all that kind of stuff. Never could afford Farrahs. When my mates had Farrahs, right, I was just like, do you know what I mean? I was going, my mum was going to the market, Aylesbury Market. We'll go there, we'll have the fluorescent socks or whatever, all these sort of like little trends and stuff like that. But when it was like, if you saw your mate and they had them, or they had Baswegians or whatever, or the loafers and all that kind of stuff, which has all come back in now.
It's a mad. I think you're the only person that I've ever heard mention Farrahs and waffles in the same sentence, other than myself. Alex will have no idea what we're talking about. Yeah. But all of the kids whose parents had a little bit of money at secondary school, they wore Farrahs. Yeah. But I couldn't actually physically get in them. They couldn't get over my thighs and my bum. They weren't designed for people of my build. But the waffles, I think they had a little bit of stretch, a little bit of lycra in them, so they were good. But I loved my waffles.
No, totally. Do you know what I mean? But that was a whole influence of mod culture as well. That informed the casual culture. And then that was percolated into, everyone that was hip hop. So it's a whole collision of styles going on. Do you know what I mean? It's mad.
You mentioned so many different kind of genres and subcultures there that kind of revolve around fashion. Yeah. What is it that gives a brand so much longevity between all of these cultures, and it's still relevant now? We're all still wearing Puma now, but you can go back to the late 70s, early 80s for the hip hop, the 90s in this country it was a lot of Britpop. The likes of Oasis, Stone Roses, Happy Mondays. Yeah. Talk to me about how a brand like Puma has managed to stay relevant for all this time.
It's just consistently having good product. But the thing is, it's also the generational thing, because we aspired to the olders, and kids coming through now are aspiring to the olders. So if everyone's sort of like continuing on with that path of brand loyalty, then it just sort of pulls through generation and generational. And the thing is, when certain aesthetics of like apparel or footwear still maintain and still look wicked, then it's, a new generation's going to gravitate towards that, because it's not like it suddenly became butters and it became ugly, is it? No. It's like, it looks good, it looks clean. So,
I think you look back to a time when pre-internet, we didn't have social media, and the influencers were influencers without it being tagged as influencers. Right. And a brand like Puma, when it aligned itself, before Puma Dalglish, you had Pele. He was the greatest player that ever lived. So you immediately go, well, if I want to play like Pele, I have to kind of wear the boots that Pele's wearing. And then as a Liverpool fan, it was the Dalglishs. But it wasn't just the fact that they were associated with Pele and Kenny Dalglish. It was that if you had them and you looked after them, they would last. So I cleaned them and I polished them and I dubbed them, and I would have them for ages. So then you go, when you do outgrow them, the next time you want a pair of boots, I'm going to get those, because I know they're not going to fall apart at the seams. We weren't playing on lush playing surfaces at that time. We were playing on gravel at times, and all of that would ruin the boots. So I think, in answer to your question, Alex, over a period of time, that it will stand for the quality of the product, who they align the product with, and obviously there's a style element to them. They always just looked cool.
That's it. And the comfort as well. Because the thing is, you can perform to a high level, then it's good. But as Spoony says, it's all about quality, because back then, money had to go a lot further. We see what's going on now, and it's just like bam, bam, bam. It wasn't like that. As Spoony said, you had to clean it up, you had to clean your shoes up, you had to make sure you had to maintain it. They had to go for MOTs. Your footwear had to go for MOTs,
Totally.
right? You know what I mean? And it's the same thing. And if you've got a brand that's synonymous with quality and with style, and you really want to keep on, being actively involved with that. You want to make sure you're repping. You want to look. You want to flex. And if you're flexing proper, do you know what I mean? It's good.
Well, that's the thing. People did want to flex. They wanted to look good. Talk to me about why it was so important to look good going to the game. There was obviously some connotations around the terrace culture with violence. There was a lot of hooliganism, especially in the late 70s, early 80s. It's a good thing that's kind of faded away a lot now. But why did people want to look so good to go and watch football?
I think there was a period of time, we've heard about the mods and the punks, and it was almost a uniform. And football terraces, they had a uniform as well, and it was, it wasn't as tailored maybe as the punks and the mods and the crop trousers, and they're 3/4 length, and they were tapered, and the jackets were fitted, and then they came out with the iridescent fabrics that if you looked at it once, it was a little bit green, it was a little bit red. So that was on that side, but on the terraces, it was definitely more casual. And like I said, it was that period where sportswear was now being worn off of the court or off of the pitch. So we'd see, Bjorn Borg or Mats Wilander turn up in their Takini or in their Fila BJ, but now it was cool to wear that on a Saturday night.
That's it.
In your tracksuit top with a pair of jeans zipped up and a really cool pair of trainers. And it just became a thing that you wouldn't, if you're stepping out to a match to represent your team, you had to represent the fashion and the culture. And like I said, it did become a uniform that you could look and say, is a football fan. Going to a football match on a Saturday afternoon.
It. But it's also the economics thing as well. So if you're coming from disparate backgrounds, you know what I mean, and you want to flex and you want to aspire to it. So if you're wearing something expensive, you feel money, you feel valuable, and that sort of came into play as well. Then it becomes, oh, he's got that. Oh no, I've got to get something a little bit better. Do you know what I mean? Or I've got to rock on that level. So it's all about, and the whole crew, if it's a crew thing going on, and that's also a hip hop thing as well, the whole crew has to be strong. There can't be any weak links. Do you know what I mean?
Totally.
If you're coming off half.
Same with the football as well.
That's it, exactly.
And that's why
Do you know what I mean?
when you see football fans walking, that's why they always walk like that. Because
Chest down.
they're dressed up. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
We're talking about it.
Something like that, exactly.
When we're talking about where this subculture started, there's a lot of, there's a grey area about which city it came from. A lot of people say in the late 70s, Liverpool were travelling to Europe a lot, and there was rumours that they would bring back some bits. Bring back is the loose term, I think. But then there was also others that say, this subculture started in Manchester. So it's definitely a northern thing to start with, and I think it's trickled down. But I mean, what do you know about the inception of it, and also kind of Puma's identity within those early stages?
I mean, this is the thing, being, and again, the advent of the internet means that the world has become a lot smaller, a lot quicker. So what was going on the streets of Manchester really could have been on the streets of Brazil when you're growing up in Hackney, because you don't even really know what's going on in Brixton, if the truth be known, at that time. This is a million miles away. But what I do know and what I've seen with music is that you have the streets of Brazil, the streets of London, the streets of New York, they will all become infected by a similar sound, or there's a similar style at a similar time. And it does happen simultaneously, even though we don't realise. That's most probably why you can take us and put us on the streets of New York, and we would go, oh, this kind of feels like home, because it really is home in another country. So I can't say exactly who did it first, but I don't think there would have been a massive gap like Liverpool and Manchester were 2 years ahead.
They're obviously going to claim it, aren't they?
Yeah.
Both places are going to claim it.
I mean, they're the two biggest teams in football. I'm going to say it right now. You know what I mean? Forget your Reals and Barcelona. It's Liverpool and Manchester United. The legendary. Whenever they met up, that is the clash, isn't it? Really, it's the pinnacle thing. And when Liverpool go on a fantastic run, with Bob Paisley, and before that Bill Shankly. Do you know what I mean? It was just like that was the level that was set.
Totally.
And you had your Brian Cloughs and everyone else. Don Ravies and all that coming into the mix, but. Seriously, that really set the level. Before that, Matt Busby. So the thing is, the rivalism between, I don't know if that's a word, but
tribalism in a way.
Right, tribalism, exactly, that's it. Between the two cities, you know, it really is that sort of tale. You know what I mean? It's like the War of the Roses.
Yeah, they'll both want it. They'll both
exactly.
want it.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, I'm just blessed that we've got it. It doesn't matter that the fact that, you know, football has its own identity on and off the pitch is really the thing. And if it started in Manchester just for Liverpool, or Liverpool just for Manchester,
who knows?
I think we should claim it as a British thing, because the thing is, like, my friends in Paris, they look up to casual style and they're like going boom, and they're following the thing. And my mates are watching This Is England and all that, like in America and that, they're just like, whoa, do you know what I mean? And they're fully transfixed with that. But when you see the levels that were set over here with the casuals, it percolated all the way through Europe. Because the Europeans were looking at going, oh, they're wearing all our stuff, but better.
Yeah,
don't you remember when The Business came out? Tamer Hussein and Danny Dyer.
Yeah.
And everybody was, the two things everyone was talking about were the tracksuits and the music. Which, you know, no disrespect to Tamer and Danny, but, you know, brilliant film. But again, that was by design. That's what they wanted to do, recreate that feeling. And I suppose when the streets of Paris is another area that I should have mentioned when I said New York, that when I go to Paris, I just feel like, wicked, I'm home, because it just has that similar energy.
Sweet.
I totally understand them identifying with that. Look at those guys, man. You know?
There's you've mentioned a few films there. We could say The Firm, The Business, Football Factory. You know, you could even chuck in Lock, Stock in there. These kind of popular films that really encapsulated the era that we have seen now with casual culture. What's your favourite kind of popular film that's had this amazing subculture?
I'd say The Firm.
The Firm.
Because the thing is, the Gary Oldman's performance in that, I mean, what an actor. But the whole thing, and when he's like, you know, when he's trying to psych him up, you know what I mean, psych himself up, and you just see what he's going through, the whole psychological process and everything, and it's really raw and visceral. You know, I've met a few ex-hooligans in my time. At the time, I didn't really associate with hooligans. You know, I was from Aylesbury, do you know what I mean? So I would have been probably on my own, or probably getting stamped to the ground or whatever, but you know, it is what it is. But the thing is, when you look at that, and from what I've been told, and from all the people that I've met through you know, my love of sneakers and my love of music, you know, when you talk to like people like Neil Hurd, you know, my mate Jason Coles, who wrote Golden Kicks, but all these guys who are like really, you know, really steeped in the culture. When I talk to Gary Aston and all these people that I know,
legend.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. And they're talking about how it was, and you know, you got to think. And then when I go to places like Laces Out, you know, when I got the trainer fair that's in Liverpool, and I picked, you know, Paddy and all them guys and all the older guys, you know, I think it's Transalpino,
Bold Street.
Yeah,
incredible
exactly.
shot.
And those guys, and then you talk to, you know, Oi Polloi and all those guys, and everything that gravitates towards, and you see what it means. And then when I went out to, you know, certain exhibitions in Manchester and in Liverpool, and you see the guys coming out, and you know they were proper naughty boys, right? And they got their Stoney, or they got their Henry Lloyd, or they got all these like really looking proper cream. Do you know what I mean? Like real, the drip is just like insane. You know what I mean? You're just looking at them and you see them all, they got the camo jackets or the CP, all that kind of stuff, which are all later brands that came into the fore. But then you see what they're rocking on their feet and how they're rocking it. And then you see the denim, and they're all like really particular. You see every element is considered. There's no weak links in the
just
look.
detail, isn't it?
Yeah, and as you were saying before we started off, you've got to make sure your socks match your brand. And you're absolutely right. No one can see it, but you know. And you know you're a fraud if you don't have the full look.
You get that feeling, you know, I'm one of those guys come from a generation that if I wear trousers with belt loops on, I must wear a belt, otherwise I feel like I'm undressed. It's just a weird thing, and you know, in a non-judgmental way, I'll be walking down the road and I'll see someone, I see a guy
wearing a belt,
and he'll go, "Where's your belt, bruv?"
Like, how are you holding them up? What are you doing? Eh? Is it Velcro on the inside? Stop it.
But you're right. You know, you're right with the socks and the trainers. It's I mean, I was never like a real. I loved good-looking trainers. I loved to always look smart. I was never a really trainery nerd, because not as an athlete, but as someone who played a lot of sport, it was the function that was the main element for me. Function, and then the aesthetics, not the other way around. But when I really started looking at trainers in another way, and I used to love wearing shoes, and I've got like too many pairs, but I got really friendly with a guy who used to have a shop. It used to be called Meteor Sports, but it's now called Mr. Sneaker. He does
Cash
on Bethnal Green, because when I worked in Shoreditch. And standing in a shop and seeing all of the colourways, for one, it then made me made me start looking at trainers in a completely different way. And then, you know, he started getting stuff that was coming in from America and it was exclusive, and then you're going like, wow. Then you're starting hearing the value of stuff, and then you're like, this is a thing.
Yeah.
This is a real thing, do you know? And it's and then the energy with music, and,
so important.
and this is where then, like you mentioned earlier with Run DMC, you start going, right, that is about that look. Do you know what I'm saying? And that's where, again, the sportswear comes off of the court or off of the pitch.
That's it.
And it's now cool to wear it on the side.
And you listen to people like MC Shan, and he's got trainers that are name checking Pumas and Lees.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And you see him on the cover like that, stunting with the Pumas, and you just like, boom, you know, you want that. You want to emulate that. And that's the thing. And it's just like those sort of, one thing that really sort of got me is I used to see trainers on people, and even apparel as well, on other people, and I'm going, where did you get that? And you found out about how everything used to be very localized. So if I went, to America to see my family there, I'd come back with gear that you couldn't get here.
And that's what I didn't realise. I didn't know that's how it went.
Yeah.
Different territories got different
That's
bits.
it.
And
Well, that's it.
Yeah.
Like, every city has its own identity. I'm very lucky to travel a lot with the COP TV, and I can go to Manchester away for a Liverpool game, and they are wearing completely different brands to when I go to Liverpool, which is
That's
Berghaus,
important.
the North Face,
Yeah.
Nike now, New Balance,
Yeah.
obviously Puma.
Yeah.
It's different styles for different cities,
Exactly.
isn't it?
That's it. That's the thing. That back in the day, it was all tribalism, and your identity was marked out by what you rocked and how you rocked it. And still to this day, with certain people, you still find that, and that's beautiful. Especially, as Spoony as eloquently said, it's all about the fact that the world has got a lot smaller with the advent of the internet. Before that, you had to know.
You had to
the
get out and
only way that
explore.
you knew what was going on. I didn't know what was going on in Houston in the 80s unless I went there, and I went there. And you'd kind of see what was going on. And when I went to New York in the early 90s, etc., you'd see there's an affinity, but then there was this sort of slight schism, and the interpretation of what it is and how it looks, it was slightly different, but you found a commonality, and as Spoony's saying, wherever he went, when he was DJing and stuff, you see all the different people, sort of coming into the fore, and you're going, oh, that's how they do it. And then you take a little bit of it away, and you sort of add it to yourself and flex it a little different.
That's the beauty of growing up in a cosmopolitan city,
totally.
because the fact that as a black boy growing up in Hackney, whose mum came to the Caribbean when she was 12, and she loved calypso music, then we were influenced by reggae music. We were influenced by pop because I was born in London. So I went from Madness, Police, Sting to Bob Marley to
Duran Duran.
But again, so I see that as a beautiful thing. And then when that goes into fashion, that my mum's idea would have been for us to dress that way. Then you have a little mix of that and a little bits of.
Well, you might go to school and see someone wearing something different, and you take a bit of that. And you mentioned before, though, that you've played a lot of sport at a good level. I mean, you've played with some top players. I was actually at Wembley for the Community Day in 2007 when you scored for the Soccer AM team.
Yeah.
Talk to me about some of the players you've played with, but also who's the best dresser out of these guys as well off the pitch?
Wow. I'll try and think of the best dressed.
Just drop some names in first about who you've played with.
I mean, I played in a five-a-side team with Kenny Dalglish and John Barnes.
Whoa.
I mean, that is...
At the same time.
That's mad.
I mean, what was fun, what was mad, and it makes me laugh to myself.
Did they pass it to you?
So this was the thing, that there's one point in the game where I've got the ball and I've given it to Kenny, and Kenny's done what Kenny, like, he's held it up brilliantly.
Yeah.
And I've made an unbelievable run off him. He's definitely going to play me in.
Yeah.
And he sort of span out the other way and shot and missed. I was like, Kenny! I was like, I just shouted at Kenny Dalglish. Wind yourself right back in. But I mean, I went and played in Ireland with the Liverpool Legends team, which was like in a proper charity game with Liverpool Legends. That was fantastic. I mean, I played with Kenny Dalglish and John Barnes.
I mean,
for me, that's it.
That's pretty major.
I'm yet to play with Steven Gerrard, but once Steven goes into that mix, then I'm golden with regards to the people that I've played with. But I played with Kieran Dyer a couple of years ago, which was unreal, because I think he's one of those players that was very underrated.
He was,
and even though he was retired, he still was just
he zips
up
it
and
about.
up and down.
It just shows you the levels that are involved.
Different levels.
Even at his like 50% is like way above your 100. Do you know what I mean? That
it's unbelievable. Best dressed. Les Ferdinand's a bit dapper.
Les Ferdinand.
Yeah,
he's up there, yeah?
Les knows how to dress.
I can imagine that actually.
Yeah, you can. That I actually seen. I mean, someone that I've never met who always looks immaculate is Sergio Ramos as well. He knows how to put it together. And as a Liverpool fan, I shouldn't really appreciate
do you know what?
But for how you know what I will say is he's one of those players that everyone loves to hate, but you would love to be in your team.
I can admit that.
Right,
100%.
brilliant. And I think anyone who's into football
player.
will be.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, Les is Les
Ferdinand.
is rather dapper. Yeah, he likes his bits. His shoes will always be polished. His suits will always tailored.
Love that.
Looking sharp.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the future of terrace culture, guys. We've spoken about the origins and where we're up to now. I mean, these, for example, the Kid Super football boots they're quite something to look at. Hector Bellerin will actually be wearing these very soon, I'm told as well. But in terms of the future of terrace culture, it's going to be difficult to keep that identity going when you can't have fans in stadiums right now, right?
Well, I think this is a temporary thing, you know. However long this crisis lasts for, it'll be obviously very, well remembered and deservedly so, for various many reasons. But the thing is, I think a lot of people are appreciating what they probably took for granted, and now is a time for, deeper consideration and to, realise the value of what they had, going to games, going to a club, going down to have a pint at the pub or whatever, used to be just a regular thing. It used to be something that you expected.
Well, it's all part of the day's experience.
Exactly, right?
It?
But the thing is, it's actually a privilege. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah,
I think
totally.
everyone's going to appreciate even more. So what I think is when the terraces are back, watch for some mad peacocking. I'm telling you, everyone's going to come out
in the freshest gear.
The freshest, because they've been buying stuff. Because I've been talking to retailers and stuff, and online retail was getting shot up, obviously. Footfall in the stores obviously diminished, but people are buying. So they're getting ready, their wardrobes are looking pretty.
So this is going to be the interesting question then. If let's just say we're not allowed back in stadiums properly en masse until the start of the 21-22 season. What about the stuff that you bought for the 19-20 season? Does that almost become football vintage, or do you go for the current season?
That's
because
catch-22.
Personally,
or
I like
you mix
to
and match it.
Well, you mix and match it. I like to draw for the. I'm someone who will buy a pair of trainers now and not wear them for a year, and especially with my white trainers, the white trainers see 3 months of the year.
Summer only.
Because I just and then even like these, right, suede.
Yeah.
If there's a 10% chance of rain, they don't come out the house.
Suedes don't come up.
The weather app is the first thing I look at when I wake up.
Trust me.
Trust. All right. We
Sneakerheads
know the
know.
levels we're setting.
Sneakerheads know. I mean, these are taken from Puma's football heritage collection. I mean, you mentioned the tongue earlier.
Yeah.
You can't get more classic than that. It's a Puma King kind of tongue. And Colm Dillon is actually the designer of these for Kid Super. Used to be a football player in Brazil. So he was obviously inspired by the likes of Pele and these guys coming through. I mean, talk to me about these boots. They're definitely striking. But
the leather is amazing.
The quality of them, very buttery, aren't they?
Yeah, very buttery, but they're tough, and they have to be because you've got to kick a football around for however long with them. Do you know what I mean? But I think that talking about the future of terrace and everything, you're going to see like more artists coming to the fore in creating clothing and creating footwear, etc. And I think people are going to be wearing those as well.
Football is expression, fashion is expression, music is expression.
Yeah.
These boots are definitely very expressive.
Definitely. With the little character.
I mean, you've got the character on the back. You've got all the kind of football anecdotes in the Kid Super studios coming straight out of New York.
The details are insane. Look, even on the inside.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
amazing.
Fantastic. These are
Amazing.
beautiful.
I love the
Whoever plays in
structure
them.
that they've got under the leather here to keep the actual integrity of the boot.
Yeah, definitely.
I love that.
Definitely. Whoever plays in them though is going to have serious game because you can't be flamboyant.
Yeah. I've never owned a pair of white boots to play in.
That's the mad thing, that's the
This
thing.
could be these could be the ones.
first.
The mad trip was when you first saw different coloured football boots coming out and you was like, nah.
Yeah.
And now you're like, yeah, that's all right. Do you know what I mean?
And nowadays, listen, the black boots are hard to come by. I've got a pair of Futures, Puma boots, and they're beautiful, to be honest. Like, so comfy.
love
But
the black
it's
one.
nice to just go back to all black sometimes, which you say was so relevant in the 70s and 80s. But speaking of the 70s and 80s, I wanted to show you two great trainers that are part of the Terrace range, the City series. Got two here to show you. Let's get into these ones first. These are the Puma Bluebird New Yorks. So, I mean, again, very striking. Get a look at these lads and we'll speak about the Madrid Londons after. But these ones especially, the Bluebird collection was actually inspired by Cardiff City FC.
What?
And then each time they've given the trainer a new city name. So these are the New Yorks.
Yeah.
Suede all over.
Yeah.
Lovely kind of sole there as well. Talk to me about these, Kish.
Oh man, just look at the form on these. You know, the silhouette. You know, they're just
It's
elegant.
Terrace. It's a classic Terrace silhouette.
You can wear these with jeans, but you can wear these with a suit. You know what I mean? You know,
Trust
you
me, he would.
You could go dapper with this. Do you know what I mean? And the thing is, when you look at New York, you look at I think the New York Jets colourway here.
Yeah.
But you know, grey and green. I love grey and green. There's something about that combo that works. But I have to say, you know, it's one of these timeless silhouettes. I remember talking to you know old school Puma heads like John Brolly and that back in the day, and how they'd love this silhouette and how it was really hard to get hold of. And the made in Yugoslavia Pumas as well. I still want a pair of Puma suedes made in Yugoslavia, the Yugos as they call them, because the cut, the shape. When you look at them and you look at what you get now, you're like, oh, they're far sexier. There's something about it, you know, the form stripe and the way that the sole, it starts off there and it gets thinner there in the different, you know, sort of elements in play. But this is a bad boy look still. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, based on the indoor shoe in 1982, it's a reissue, a kind of recycled version of that. But like you mentioned earlier, a lot of these Terrace shoes were used for sports.
Yeah,
like you know the Rome 68s, the Pumas there. I mean, they were actually used in the Olympic Games.
That's it.
So you can see now how these type of shoes have reinvented themselves and are still relevant today.
And that's the thing, you know, I'm old enough to remember that when trainers were actually used for sport, and when the transition came where it was a casual look that they're not designed for sport. You're not meant to run in these or play football in these or play basketball in these, but you to wear them. They were designed just for the street. So it's lovely, the heritage in Puma that their sneakers are actually sport shoes. Predominantly first and foremost. And you know, and that idea of wearing these with a suit, like I've got many pictures in a suit with just a plain white t-shirt, crop trousers, and a pair of even though you're wearing a suit, the shoes and the trainers actually become the statement.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And these would make a statement, especially in the various colourways. Now, if you imagine you're wearing a suit, navy blue suit, with a white t-shirt, with a purple hanky, and those.
Now we're talking.
That's what I'm talking
Now
about.
we're talking.
You're patterning it already.
That's what I'm
I mean, I
talking
love
about.
it. You know what I mean?
So yeah, love the New Yorks.
That's
Big
it.
fan of these classic Terrace silhouette.
The other thing is though, have a look. It's nearly a flip of the Puma colours as well.
Yeah, totally.
Right.
Stick them under there and let's look at the next pair. So these are the Madrid Londons from the Bluebird collection again.
These are good looking,
Spoonie's
these
actually
ones.
wearing these right now.
Man.
I mean, the colourway in all of these City Series collections are striking, but this one with the gum sole especially, with the suede upper.
Yeah, gum sole for the win. Gum sole for the win, definitely. But these colours are my two favourite colours on one shoe. So it's a win already, do you know what I mean? You know, and I have to say, I mean, put it this way, if I was going to go for a kickabout, I'll put these straight on, because they're still going to be good to go, you know?
You're not catching me kicking anything in these, not even socks.
See, very different.
No,
very
but
different.
Not even socks in the
but
bedroom.
the thing is though, I'm going to have two pairs.
Double
plate
special.
Yeah, exactly.
So the colour of these is actually taken from the Jubilee line that actually runs through London City. So the Madrid Londons can be confusing, of course, but essentially they are London through and through.
Wow.
Purple, the colour, it's the colour of kings. So historically,
well,
purple
it's the coat of arms in Madrid, and that's the royal colour, isn't it? Purple, and then.
But historically, it was only rich people could afford to have the colour purple because of the dyes.
Yeah.
So that's why they call it the colour of kings.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's right. You know what I mean? And the quality in these is bad boy as well, you know. But I mean, check them out. They look wicked.
Do like the gum sole.
Yes.
The gum sole for me is it's so Terrace it hurts. Because when you have a gum sole, you're knocking about throughout the city. It's not gonna get scratched, is it?
Yeah.
And it's just the perfect Terrace kind of a sole.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it's a win. It's a win. I mean, Puma's reverence to the past
but making it relevant for the now is absolutely beautiful to see. You know, there's a whole new gen that's going to come up and appreciate it. They want to know the stories, but then they want to also be able to work with, you know, something new. So when you see this and you transition to something like this as well, they've got all the bases covered.
The thing, when I'm looking at these, the silhouette is more like a shoe as opposed to a trainer, even though they are a trainer.
Yeah.
So when you, like you said about wearing them with jeans or wearing them with a suit, it's not like wearing a pair of trainers with a big, you know, bubble or a big heel on them, because they're not like that. You stand closer to the floor like you would with a, with a pair of shoes.
That's right.
Yeah, they're lovely.
I mean, no, they're an elegant shape, an elegant form. Yeah, proper dapper.
Proper dapper.
Yeah.
Listen, big fan of these as well. And there's also the St. Petersburgs and the Amsterdams that we'll touch on in the next episode. But fellas, reshaping the future of football culture. It's DJ Spoony.
Thank you very much.
And Kish Kash with myself,
Cheers.
AGT. We'll catch you next time. Take care and stay safe.